Yep, that's me. 8-year-old me to be exact, dressed as my favorite wrestler on Halloween. And that's also me, losing my voice and surely shattering surrounding eardrums at the sight of my favorite wrestler's final SummerSlam entrance. Oh yeah, that's me again, sorry, in case you got confused there. That was just me meeting my hero and thanking him in person for saving my life. No, unfortunately, this isn't a you can't see me deal. I'm saving the jokes for a bit later. I'm really not in this picture. However, somewhere out there in the world, there was a 3-year-old kid in an apartment in the Bronx sitting in front of his TV with his dad who, while channel surfing, stumbled upon a channel that would show him what would be his first ever professional wrestling match and subsequently his first ever John Cena match. That was back in 2008, and over 17 years later, professional wrestling has become the most important medium in my life, and in turn, John Cena has become one of the most important figures. The man I consider the greatest professional wrestler of all time, and a man whose taglines and catchphrases I've tried to actualize. Idol would be an understatement, hero would be underrating him. If you've ever seen this picture on your timeline, I'm the face that runs that place. I told you I'd save the jokes for a bit later. In this video, I have the tall yet rewarding task of ranking every John Cena world title match, with some help from friends along the way. 106 matches against a variety of opponents spanning over 2 decades. And yet, this is more of an homage, a celebration of the legacy and the career of a man you can't tell the story of professional wrestling without. So strap in, everybody, for the good, the great, the bad, and even the ugly. But most importantly, this will be longer than the 3-second tan, so strap in for the World Championship retrospective of John Cena and the honoring of his immense career. Well, folks, an apology is in order. It appears as if on the voyage that I went on to find and watch every John Cena world title match, I actually missed a few. Very, very funny and fitting that I couldn't see, if you catch my drift, those matches. However, I will not leave them to the wayside. We are going to get to the bottom of this, and I'm going to tell you my opinion on all of them because I've actually seen them, funny enough, if you can believe it, right now. On October 3rd, 2005, John Cena had a TV title defense against Eric Bischoff. I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. It is not AI. In fact, it is actually all up on the WWE Vault, which makes this even funnier. John Cena wrestled Eric Bischoff in a match. I mean, I don't know. I probably shouldn't have even brought this up. I kind of think this dampers a lot of things. But yeah, I don't know. On December 19th, 2009, John Cena defended the WWE Championship against Chris Jericho at Tribute to the Troops. Time is a funny thing because this was actually taped before Cena had already lost the championship to Sheamus at TLC. It's a very house show by the numbers match. You can throw this in the hundreds too. It's really nothing to this. On June 20th, 2005, John Cena had a 2-minute TV title defense against Muhammad Hassan. Yes, Muhammad Hassan. Not joking. You could probably throw this somewhere in the hundreds. I mean, it's 2 minutes. Muhammad Hassan, John Cena. Imagine, literally exactly what you'd expect. On December 28, 2009, John Cena had a 2-minute TV title match with Sheamus, following Sheamus defeating him at TLC for the championship. It's 2 minutes and ends in a DQ. They don't get to do anything. You can throw this in the hundreds. It's nothing. On December 4th, 2006, John Cena would have a 2-minute TV title defense in the Master Lock Challenge against Chris Masters. And I'm going to be honest, this actually pops me huge. The Master Lock Challenge, for some reason, has always really made me smile. I couldn't even really explain to you why. The sight of a very strong man in John Cena being rendered inconsequential to the devastating Master Lock and seeing him fight out and put on his own version of the Master Lock, I mean, it pops me huge. You could throw this somewhere in the 90s, but I actually think this is kind of fun. On May 1st, 2006, John Cena had a TV title defense against Kenny Dykstra of the Spirit Squad. This one I'm actually going to kick myself a little bit for missing because I actually quite like this match. It's a really simple match of John Cena overcoming the odds, which is a role that he is absolutely incredible in. Some really fun shenanigans. You get some DX stuff in there if you're into that. You could probably throw this in the 70s, 80s. Actually better than a lot of the early matches that Cena would have with some of his greatest rivals, if you could believe it. On May 15, 2006, John Cena and Rob Van Dam would defend both the WWE and Intercontinental titles in a 3-on-2 handicap match with Triple H, Chris Masters, and Shelton Benjamin, which is a hilarious collection of individuals. I quite like this match a lot. It's really fun, really frantic, really dynamic and creative. You could probably throw this somewhere in like the 60s to 50s. This is a really underrated TV gem. Appropriately, I'm wearing some Jets gear because just like the New York Jets, these matches absolutely suck. Just like you can't see John Cena. God, I wish I didn't have to see these matches. Also, why am I outside in shorts? It's like 30 degrees. Jesus. Number 106 versus The Miz at Over the Limit 2011. Agonizingly long, and a majority of the match is spent watching two of the blandest workers ever get heat on the babyface. Something even worse than awful, mind-numbingly, and rapidly ages you levels of boring. Number 105 versus The Miz at WrestleMania 27. This just narrowly beats out the I Quit match by virtue of being way shorter. However, this is also made even worse by the fact that this main event's the absolute worst WrestleMania of all time. Just like The Miz, I wish I didn't remember this match either. Number 104 versus R-Truth at Capital Punishment 2011. The most basic match on this list, and the contention for the most basic match I've ever seen. There's a good match with these two in a different universe. However, we don't live in this universe, and this isn't that. Really, really boring, and sadly really poor. Number 103 versus Edge on the July 15, 2006 edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. This is easily the worst match between these two. It's too short, with an awful finish, and the work itself really isn't all that inspired. Sadly, these two did not have a 100% hit rate. Number 102 versus Randy Orton at Hell in a Cell 2009. The Cena-Orton feud gets a lot of flack in history, and unfortunately, even as somebody who defends it more often than he hates on it, it's very easy to see why with matches like this one. It's plotting, it's uninspired, and it makes terrible use of the cell structure, the limitations of the PG era on full display. Number 101 versus Randy Orton at SummerSlam 2009. Man, we're really not doing this feud any favors here early. Funny enough, the thing everyone knocks this match for is actually its best aspect. The heel constantly trying to find ways to avoid dealing with the babyface and being thrown back into the fire each time actually rules in concept. The problem is John Cena looks like the absolute biggest moron here, and the work itself in the middle isn't really all that interesting. Number 100 versus Kurt Angle at Survivor Series 2005. Yeah, I know. Given the names, this shocked me a ton too. However, this is sadly overbooked nonsense that is too bloated to even give these two a chance to wrestle. Such a waste considering the talent and considering their chemistry. Number 99 versus The Miz on the May 2nd, 2011 edition of Monday Night Raw. John Cena is one hell of a babyface, and all things considered, this is probably his best singles match with The Miz. However, that's still not saying much considering this is really pedestrian and is still really held down by the fact that The Miz is really, really bad at this whole professional wrestling thing. Number 98 versus JBL at WrestleMania 21. This is one of the more important Cena matches on the list given what it would later mean to his superstardom and career. However, for a match wrestled on the biggest stage, this is very much a TV effort. It's basic, formulaic, and unfortunately, nothing too riveting. However, it created a superstar, and for that, it deserves its flowers. Number 97 versus Randy Orton at Royal Rumble 2014. I promise this feud isn't that bad, guys. Just stick with me. It gets better. I promise. However, this is just the absolute wrong match to have ran at this time. The crowd taking matters into their own hands is easily the best part of this thing, and not even a finisher fest between two big stars could save this from being super mundane and super incorrect. Number 96 versus Randy Orton, Edge, and Sheamus at Fatal 4-Way 2010. The 2010s WWE main event style watered down a ton of matches that on paper actually looked really damn good. This is one of its biggest victims. The usual multi-man match tropes that make this so damn boring. Number 95 versus JBL at Royal Rumble 2009. These two were only ever meant to wrestle in stipulation matches. This is what we call a backdrop match. A match where it's certainly happening. There's things going on. However, nothing of substance or importance is happening. It's just something that's there. Number 94 versus Sheamus at Money in the Bank 2010. Another huge victim of the really repetitive 2010s WWE main event style, made even worse by the fact that WWE, outside of a few exceptions, has never really gotten cage matches right after the 90s. Sheamus by this point isn't very good, and it results in a really monotonous and formulaic outing until the admittedly very fiery finish. John Cena, once again, What a babyface. Number 93 versus Carlito on the August 1st, 2005 edition of Monday Night Raw. This is your run-of-the-mill overbooked TV main event. However, John Cena has such great babyface fire that it's really hard not to enjoy his side of things, so he saves us from really not being all that terrible. Number 92 versus Edge on the January 30th, 2006 edition of Monday Night Raw. It's John Cena and Edge playing the hits in a short outing with a wonky finish. It's nothing crazy, but there's still a little something to enjoy. Number 91 versus Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, Edge, Sheamus, and Wade Barrett at Night of Champions 2010. Jericho's shock elimination and a hot ending stretch are really the only things to note here. This is another huge victim of 2010's WWE's stagnant and repetitive main event formula. A match that should be really good, but sadly, it's just mediocre. Number 90 versus The Rock at WrestleMania 29. The magic of the first just isn't present in this really forced and unelectrifying rematch. There's fun to be had, don't get me wrong, seeing two of the biggest stars of all time trading finishers. However, it just doesn't feel the same, and it also doesn't help that this is closing out one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. Yes, this is still John Cena. Yeah, there's a really weird plastic thing on his head and a bald eagle, but that's not the point. The point is, I said John Cena was the greatest professional wrestler of all time, which meant we were going to get to some good matches eventually. And these matches, well, they're good. So, number 89 versus Sheamus on the June 21st, 2010 edition of Monday Night Raw. This is just a rock-solid TV affair. Good heat, good comebacks, and one of the only times these guys ever really clicked on any true level. Number 88 versus Sheamus at TLC 2009. This is actually probably the best match between these two. There's some added drama with the race to put someone through a table, and the shock win being actually shocking helps a lot. Again, this is just a really decent, solid match. Number 87 versus Edge at Royal Rumble 2006. This is a pretty basic match given the standards of this dynamic. However, this carries some really great heat that guides this thing through. This dynamic works mostly, and it does on the most basic levels in this match. Number 86 versus King Booker and the Big Show at Cyber Sunday 2006. This is way too long, and Cena and Booker never had any real chemistry. However, Big Show is a lovely bridge as the monster that needs to be cut down to size. Him and John have way better chemistry than they're ever given credit for, which gives this match enough feats and cool spots to be worthwhile. Number 85 versus Alberto Del Rio at Night of Champions 2011. John Cena has a real knack for getting the most out of lesser than opponents, and for whatever reason, these two had oddly good chemistry, especially given the fact that Alberto Del Rio was, to put it bluntly, a really bad wrestler. This is just a well-wrestled and safe match, and honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. Number 84 versus Chris Jericho at Survivor Series 2008. The work over Cena's recently repaired neck is strong, but also at times too slow for its own good. However, the hot hometown crowd and John's comeback performance is just too sweet to dismiss. This is nowhere near the best match these two will ever have, but this is still a really decent outing. Number 83 versus Edge on the March 2nd, 2009 edition of Monday Night Raw. This is just a pretty fun sprint. It's too short to be anything too great or substantial. However, there's still so much energy and cool hits played that it works well within its constraints. Number 82 versus Randy Orton and Triple H at Night of Champions 2009. It's just a rehash of their Mania match, just not as fun. Cena being the bridge that stops this match from being totally diluted by the repulsive Randy Orton Triple H chemistry is really wonderful, and there's enough work with the two guys individually with John to give this one some legs. Number 81 versus Alberto Del Rio at Survivor Series 2013. The narrative thread of Cena learning from the Hell in a Cell match and constantly protecting his arm is the attention to detail that makes him so singular. This is a near-fall special with some nice nuance added. Another good one from a really oddly good pairing. Number 80 versus Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, and Kane at Battleground 2014. This is a decent little car crash, some fun mixing of personalities, and luckily the heel heat segments aren't long enough to totally kill this thing. Although Kane is in it, so of course that docks it a few points. Number 79 versus Alberto Del Rio at Hell in a Cell 2013. It's nothing totally different from the usual Cena Del Rio match, however the added element of John's incredible selling of his arm and Alberto's admittedly good work over it makes it stronger than their aforementioned outings so far. Number 78 versus Randy Orton at Unforgiven 2007. I told you guys, stay patient with me, this does get better, and yes, this is actually good. It's only 6 minutes and it has a DQ finish. However, those 6 minutes are packed with so much. A wonderful babyface performance from John Cena channeling revenge and hatred, and a prime example of what it means to maximize your minutes. Number 77 versus the Great Khali at Judgment Day 2007. Among the greatest feats of Cena's career is getting multiple good matches out of the Great Khali, this one being the first. Cena works overtime in making Khali's offense look imposing while being the perfect underdog against a monster. This is what we call a one-man show. Number 76 versus CM Punk on Raw 1000. It's impossible for there to be a bad Cena Punk match. Yes, even the one you're thinking of. Don't worry, we'll get to it later. They don't get much time here and the finish sucks, but it's roughly 10 minutes of John Cena and CM Punk doing their thing. There are way worse ways to spend 10 minutes. Number 75 versus Randy Orton, JBL, and Triple H at Backlash 2008. A totally fine ship by some pros. And Triple H. Cena gets eliminated too quickly, and thus this turns the match into a Triple H Randy Orton singles match, which nobody ever wants to see. However, when John Cena's in there, he's really fun and dynamic because of course he is, so there's still some fun to be had here in the early stages. Number 74 versus Kurt Angle and Chris Masters on the November 28, 2005 edition of Monday Night Raw. A match that'd be a throwaway in the hands of anybody else, not in the hands of John Cena. Cena working as the babyface with the walls closing in will never not be riveting, and even in just 7 minutes, there is a lot to enjoy here. Number 73, the 2010 WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match. This is pretty pedestrian for a chamber match given its standards, however, there's still some enjoyment to be had with Kofi Kingston running wild and Cena's explosive performance. Number 72, versus Edge on the December 18, 2006 edition of Monday Night Raw. It's the classic Cena Edge formula, to the point and direct, it's a pretty decent time. Number 71, versus Randy Orton at TLC 2013. This is one that's better than it's given credit for, while also being really tame for the norms of the stipulation. However, there's just enough good character work from both to make this something of substance. Number 70, versus Edge on the February 16, 2006 edition of Monday Night Raw. A case of overbooking actually being of service. So far, this is the most entertaining and exciting Cena Edge match that's been mentioned. It's the hits being played with some added spice to make it a little more fun. Number 69 versus Ryback at Payback 2013. 2013 is historically one of the more underrated years of John Cena's career. It's often defined by either his extreme highs or incredibly poor lows. However, there are a ton of scattered gems across his year, including one of the few times WWE ever got the 3 stages of hell stipulation right. This is a fun underdog monster dynamic with the right amount of chaos and carnage to make this worthwhile and one of Ryback's better matches. Number 68 versus Edge and the Big Show at WrestleMania 25. For being the top guy for well over a decade, John's WrestleMania catalog is super strange. There are not many matches in there that I would say are great, however there are a ton of quiet gems, including this really fun and exciting triple threat. A match where Cena's individual chemistry with both is able to shine, and a match centered around the sheer strength that is so singular to John. Well, I've stumbled across a park. I don't really know how that happened. I've also stumbled across another John Cena shirt. I do know how that happened. What I also know is that you have just stumbled across the next batch of matches in the John Cena World Championship retrospective. And folks, we're not just going to be talking about the good stuff here. We're going to be talking about some of the great matches that John Cena's had for that World Championship or WWE Championship, depending on what time period we're talking about. I call him to go. Here are a few more reasons why. Number 67 versus Damien Sandow on the October 28th, 2013 edition of Monday Night Raw. Everyone remembers this match for the outcome. However, nobody ever talks about it actually being a damn good match. Cena's incredible selling once again on display, and some class work on top makes this well worth your time. In a hard pinch, I'd say this is Sandow's career best. Number 66 versus Randy Orton, The Big Show, and Triple H on the June 15th, 2009 edition of Monday Night Raw. As far as multi-mans go, this is pretty damn decent. The story of each man trying to figure out the puzzle that is The Big Show in their own ways is both fun and unique, and Cena specifically is able to keep things connected and grounded because of his great individual chemistry with all involved. Given it's 2009, and by this point we've already seen a combination of these matches about 1 million times over, this is way more spirited and fun than it has any right to be. Number 65 versus CM Punk and Alberto Del Rio at Hell in a Cell 2011. The cell is basically a non-factor in this, which sucks. However, there's enough Cena versus Punk to make this valuable in some way. There's some solid 3-way spots and some nice back and forth. This isn't a bad time. Number 64 versus CM Punk and Ryback at Survivor Series 2012. Similar to the previous match, this is a very good time, elevated immensely by the incredible John Cena CM Punk dynamic. These two can elevate any match they're in with even just a fraction of their chemistry on display. This one also earned some bonus points for the debut of the Shield, and hot take, I think those guys did pretty alright for themselves. Number 63 versus Triple H at Night of Champions 2008. It's their Mania match with less flair and color. However, these two had oddly good chemistry, so this still works on some levels. There's some great limb work, and these two always understood how to wrestle the WWE big match main event style. Number 62 versus Mick Foley, Randy Orton, King Booker, and Bobby Lashley at Vengeance 2007. Yep, try saying that 5 times fast. And yes, this did actually happen. In fact, this sits firm on the list of John Cena matches most people probably didn't even know happened. However, this is a frantic and wildly fun match with the most random assortment of names you could possibly think of. John is once again perfectly cast as the champion whose back is against the wall and must find his way through the fire. There is nobody I'd rather have in an underdog scenario than John Cena. Number 61 versus Randy Orton and Triple H at WrestleMania 24. Plain and simple, this is just a smart and honest professional wrestling match. It's big stars wrestling like big stars, and in a setting like this, you can't really ask for much more. It's a constantly engaging outing with each man bringing something to the table, from Orton selling to Cena's energy and unique awareness being on full display to wrestle this match with a great sense of urgency and speed as to convey gravity and weight. This is really fun, all things considered. Number 60 versus Chris Jericho on the August 22nd, 2005 edition of Monday Night Raw. This is a match that sticks to the fundamentals and works really well because of it. There are very few better at combating the odds and rising above than John Cena, managing to keep a crowd hot and raising high stakes to even higher levels. This is also a case of shenanigans helping matters and overbooking actually being of service rather than of detriment. Number 59 versus Rob Van Dam on the June 26, 2006 edition of Monday Night Raw. Everyone knows about their classic one-night stand match, but not many people know that these two had a really sick TV match just 2 weeks later. This is a total sprint, and Rob's absurd bumping lends itself super well to how fantastic of a powerhouse John Cena is. A total gem. Number 58 versus Edge at SummerSlam 2006. So far, this would be what I consider the first really good Cena-Edge match discussed so far. It hits the sweet spot, gets to all the right beats, and has one of the earliest great John Cena comebacks I can remember. It's really a sight to behold when you get to see John fight with this much animation. Number 57 versus CM Punk and The Big Show at SummerSlam 2012. The points made for the previously mentioned triple threats involving Cena and Punk still stand. However, where this one really excels is not just in the addition of a great giant and Big Show, but it's in the great character work. John in particular does a great job of balancing the valiant and stubborn warrior with the reluctant half of a necessary duo. Even with the break in action due to 2010's WWE shenanigans, there is so much fun action in this that it's hard not to enjoy this. Number 56 versus Ryback at Extreme Rules 2013. This is your typical WWE Last Man Standing match with the added bonus of John Cena playing the babyface trapped underneath the rubble of the monster he's trying to escape. An unbeatable trope. It's fun, explosive, and destructive. This is probably the best singles match of Ryback's entire career. Number 55 versus Chris Jericho at Armageddon 2008. This succeeds more than the Survivor Series outing by being more fast-paced. The strong work over Cena's recently repaired neck remains the same, however it just flows so much nicer, embracing that big match, big near-fall main event epic style. Number 54 versus Brock Lesnar at Backlash 2003. This is what I would say is the earliest really good match of John Cena's career. He's still really green, but it's the first time ever where I noticed he comes across like a true star, taking the bulk of the match and owning the moment. He's mean, relentless, and scrappy, complemented by some wonderful bumping and selling from Lesnar. These two just had fantastic chemistry. Number 53 versus Rob Van Dam and Edge on the July 3rd, 2006 edition of Monday Night Raw. This is just boatloads of fun. There's always something happening and the dynamics mesh seamlessly. There are some really cool and innovative three-way spots, and Cena once again gets to embrace one of the strongest aspects of his game, being the bridge that connects it all. Number 52 versus Umaga and the Great Khali on the June 4th, 2007 edition of Monday Night Raw. All credit in the world to Umaga, who's great here. However, this is the John Cena show through and through, giving Khali the two best matches of his entire life within a 24-hour span, with this one being the second of the two. He is the resilient hero fighting two giants and overcoming all odds. It's his perfect role, and he is absolutely spectacular in this match, bumping and selling his ass off, taking every move like it's a death blow to get across just how immense and imposing these two men actually are, and his fighting comebacks are filled with such heart and passion. This is a sleeper and a gem from the best year of John Cena's entire career. Number 51 versus Kurt Angle at Unforgiven 2005. This is John Cena and Kurt Angle having a straight up fight, gritty and intense, which enables John to tap into that scrappy fighter that is such an underrated aspect of his game. Number 50 versus Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, Carlito, Chris Masters, and Kane at New Year's Revolution 2006. It feels like this chamber is often slighted and or forgotten in history, and while it's not among the best of the stipulation, it's still a really nice affair. One of the few times Cena got to bleed, and he made sure to make it count with an unreal babyface performance, fighting off challenges from every direction. It's John Cena with his back against the wall. What more could you possibly ask for? Number 49 versus Cesaro, Randy Orton, Sheamus, Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, Alberto Del Rio, and Kane at Money in the Bank 2014. Yeah, I know. This is entirely too many people for a ladder match, but there's still enough solid elements to turn this into a very good ladder match. The sight of Orton bleeding in 2014 adds a lot, and it maintains that disorderly vibe the ladder matches should carry to make this a really fun time. Number 48 versus AJ Styles and Bray Wyatt on the February 14th, 2017 edition of SmackDown. It's hurt by TV constraints ultimately, but it's three big stars doing big star shit. It's so energizing and exciting, and John specifically works so well in presenting both men as different threats while remaining desperate in his approach. During the absolute shitstorm that was 2017 SmackDown, this is a diamond in the rough. Number 47 versus Edge on the October 2nd, 2006 edition of Monday Night Raw. A cage match with proper intensity and hatred. These two lay into one another in addition to having their type of match. The overbooking is a bit much and unnecessary, but there's so much quality beforehand that this can't be outright dismissed. The added enhancement of Cena doing a great job trying to protect his hurt arm while being locked in with a vicious animal gives this just the right amount of nuance and depth to stand it apart. Number 46 versus Chris Jericho at SummerSlam 2005. Big Match John was a nickname that wasn't given until much later, but it's one that has fit John since his first ever world title run. A ridiculously heated match with some excellent back and forth, and some of John's first displays of how well he's able to adapt to his opponents. Number 45 versus Christian and Chris Jericho at Vengeance 2005. This not being a straight up Cena Christian singles match will forever haunt me, however this is still a pleasure. There's a ton of creative three-way spots, and a younger Cena being forced to swim in deep waters while being at a disadvantage makes for a compelling narrative and keeps this interesting throughout. Number 44 versus Shawn Michaels and Triple H at Survivor Series 2009. You know, in WWE specifically, and whatever this term actually means, John Cena is probably the best triple threat match wrestler ever. Beyond that opening moment that's been clipped to death at this point, this is supercharged and super entertaining. A ton of moving pieces and a refreshing take on the Cena fight from underneath trope as he gets to take control in the face of a fractured partnership. Number 43 versus John Morrison and The Miz at Extreme Rules 2011. Funny, the way to have a good Cena Miz match is to simply throw someone else into proceedings and involve The Miz as little as possible. If you were to ask people about the match that precedes Cena's announcement of a compromising, most people wouldn't be able to tell you it's this one, yet it's super cool. Morrison's high spots are electric, and Cena is able to flawlessly strike that balance between a man hell-bent on revenge and a man who understands the weight of making history. A ton of unique spots and usage of the cage. This is a really good time. Number 42 versus the Great Khali at One Night Stand 2007. Simply put, John Cena is a miracle worker. How he managed to get this great a match out of Khali is forever beyond me, and while it's not his greatest feat ever, it might just be his most impressive. The way he makes everything feel significant, from the minimal but impactful use of weapons, to Khali's offense, to his nuclear comeback, this works on just about every level because of John, one of those that you really have to see to believe. Number 41 versus AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, and Baron Corbin at Fastlane 2018. Total anarchy and so much to engage with. A match that starts at 100 and doesn't slow down. Getting to see Cena mix it up with AJ, Sami, and Kevin specifically is always going to be a treat, and this is just a wild and really fun time. Number 40 versus Batista at Over the Limit 2010. The tropes of the I Quit match hurt this one a bit, but these two never missed when they wrestled each other. Batista at his most menacing and aggressive, the perfect combination to oppose Cena's resolve and fortitude. A stiff and rigged affair for one of WWE's most underrated pairings. Number 39 versus Mark Henry at Money in the Bank 2013. The hits just keep on coming from Cena's most underrated year, and this is a strong contender for the most underappreciated match of his career. Mark is the perfect big man, both suffocating and unrelenting, and the heart and earnestness in Cena's fight is simply one of one. A match that sticks to a very specific and common formula and excels in doing so. A true David versus Goliath encounter, and man does it rock.
Well, folks, we find ourselves in Madison Square Garden, and you have just found yourself as we are inching ever so close to finishing the John Cena World Championship retrospective. Crowd's going crazy. You're about to go crazy because we are nearing the elite of the elite. These are some of the great John Cena World Championship matches. Last time is really now.
Number 38, the World Heavyweight Championship Elimination Chamber match at No Way Out 2009. This is a chamber match where everything clicks. The structure feels dangerous and impactful. Each man gets their moment to shine, and Cena's entry lights up this match in a way few others ever could. He's a house on fire, and he does such a great job of subtly building to his own elimination with how dominant and active he is in his short amount of time. Even with two weak links, this really works. Number 37 versus Edge at Backlash 2009. John Cena's Last Man Standing match catalog is absolutely absurd. This is the match that does a great job of showcasing the hatred that these two men had built for one another, carnage in the wake, very dope spots, and most importantly, a brawl that never lacks in feeling ugly or genuine. As the last big match these two ever have, it's perfect for what it sets out to be. Number 36 versus Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle at Taboo Tuesday 2005. To me, this is a match that's more symbolic than anything else. It's John Cena being battle tested against top guys, being thrown to the wolves to see if he can stand on top the alpha. To me, this is a match that symbolizes the period and the run that he was on at this time, trying to find his way and footing in a sea of sharks. This is a constantly evolving match, one that goes from straight up to rigged in a hurry. The way John showcases pressure and the way he's always fighting even against all logic and conventional wisdom is something incredible to behold. All three of these guys gel so well, and this is just so awesome to watch. Number 35 versus AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose at No Mercy 2016. Wow, the whiplash saying that latter name again. An example of how to balance pre-existing stories with new additions. Mox is the perfect disruptor, which in turn allows Cena to tap into that human side of him that makes him so great. At his best when he's forced to confront the realities of his desires. A match wrestled with such life and vigor. A match that never slows down, and all three men at the top of their games having a wildly exciting and great contest. Number 34 versus Edge and Triple H at Backlash 2006. A hard-hitting and lively brawl. The way it transitions from a 2-on-1 assault challenging Cena's will to a fierce and uncontrollable fight is both seamless and awesome as hell. Triple H's Crimson Mask is an added sight to behold, and these three personalities mesh to make an incredibly compelling contest. Number 33 versus Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton, and Edge at Backlash 2007. A multi-man match that's worked exactly how one should be. Fast, high energy, and doesn't get bogged down by plotting or waiting around. Everyone gets to shine, everyone gets to bring their own personality, and the history between all involved is handled properly and with great care. The finishing stretch is also exactly as cool as you've heard it is. Number 32 versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam 2015. If you're familiar with PWG John, yeah, this is that era tenfold. It's big moves, big near falls, hot crowd. These two always had that great chemistry though. What distinguishes this from many Cena matches during this iteration, however, is the work done to bring meaning to those big moves. John's choice to work an unfamiliar pace to try and match Seth's energy, resulting in a way more nuanced affair than you'd expect. Number 31 versus Randy Orton at No Way Out 2008. Do you remember the finish where Randy slaps the referee and gets disqualified? I'm almost guaranteeing you do. Do you remember the actual match and the work that preceded said finish? I'm almost guaranteeing you don't, and that's a shame because this match is really great, a match that is played perfectly to the circumstances. Orton's agonizing insistence on targeting Cena's injured arm, John's urgency in ending the match quickly to avoid pain. It's the presence in the moment that the latter is so good at carrying, a match that carries gravity while also doubling as a fun fireworks show with all the big moves. And yes, this finish does actually rule, and much like most of the rivalry, this is a match that gets too bad a rep. It's actually good. Number 30 versus Bobby Lashley at the Great American Bash 2007. Once again, let me reiterate, John Cena is a miracle worker. Getting this match out of a super green Bobby Lashley is an insane feat, a wonderful powerhouse showdown, a clashing of titans, impressive feats of power, and a fascinating exercise in John having to deal with someone who can match his strength as opposed to simply overwhelm him, pitting Cena in the role he works best in, the scrappy, relentless underdog. Number 29 versus Brock Lesnar at Night of Champions 2014. John is amazing at making rematches feel different, always taking from the previous encounters and building on them. A month removed from possibly the greatest squash in WWE history, this match carries that same fire and weight. The way Cena learns from the SummerSlam mauling and focuses on the little things to protect himself is just such a wonderful touch. A more even contest centered around heart and learning, maintains the sick bumping from Cena that makes Lesnar come across like a total beast, and the fiery comebacks that make him the worthy hero. A super underrated match in their saga. Number 28 versus Umaga at New Year's Revolution 2007. Their Rumble match is constantly talked about, and for good reason, don't get me wrong, but their match 3 weeks earlier deserves a lot more conversation. Just a lovely David versus Goliath bout, with Cena standing and fighting, trying to solve the unsolvable puzzle of the unbeaten monster. Some of the best selling of his entire career, and a match that highlights how well John was able to get across his humanity in the ring. And yes, the roll-up finish works so wonderfully too, as a means of escape and a way to build to their legendary clash just 3 weeks later. Number 27 versus Randy Orton at Backlash 2025. The first 2025 John Cena match on this list, which will certainly anger some people, and trust me, depending on who you are, it could get a lot worse. It's poetic, really, that the final Cena Orton match is buried underneath this much chicanery, because a lot of their feud was, really. This doubles as a beautiful homage to that story, as well as an incredibly fun version of the WWE main event epic. A match that allows Cena to tap into that slimeball, cowardly side of his heel persona that he plays up so amazingly. A match built around mirroring the actions of your opponent without actually being able to effectively. Randy, as the old veteran gunslinger who just gets to be, opposing a nervous and anxious John Cena, refreshes this dynamic in its final stages. Yes, this one actually rules. Number 26 versus Triple H at WrestleMania 22. The best match between a pairing that never should have worked as well as it did. The night Chicago appointed John Cena public enemy number 1, and thank God they did. An expertly paced and strongly worked epic that shows us our first flashes of road game Cena. A match built around Cena's inexperience at this level, and one that forces him to truly work for everything. A unique performance in how sloppy and uncomposed John is, all to the match's benefit. It's a slow burn, but an effective one. Number 25 versus Batista at WrestleMania 26. Two heavyweights doing battle on the grand stage. These two men understand presence and wrestle a match tailor-made to their commonalities. A great Cena fight from underneath, and it's just so thrilling to watch these two superstars trade bombs. Number 24 versus Alberto Del Rio at Vengeance 2011. To me, easily Del Rio's career best match. A last man standing that is equally as chaotic as it is exciting. Big set pieces, bold destruction, and a match that never lacks action. It shines brightest, however, in how oddly authentic it feels. The sight of these two wrestling in a broken ring adds a sense of heightened danger and anxiety that really amps up the stakes. Cena is the perfect big, explosive match wrestler and does a tremendous job of using the environment to create something truly engaging. Number 23 versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam 2021. This match rules. And it always has, playing on the very real element of Cena's age and mortality, an ode to the old school gradual escalations of the heavyweight title bouts of the past. Old Man John is exceptional in both firing all the hits in an attempt to counter reality, and as the veteran who has less to give as each moment passes by. A match that works because of how slow it is, and it's the better of the two Cena Reigns singles matches. Number 22, the 2017 Elimination Chamber match. People often dismiss this one for being the first chamber match to be padded and protected. However, I'd argue that it actually works in this match's favor, allowing for crazier spots and an insistence on making the chamber an instrument of pain. A great blending of dynamics and a ton of free-flowing and cool multi-man spots. Cena as the champion in peril who's too valiant for his own good is always going to make for a riveting narrative. Number 21 versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 41. Yes, I'm talking about the one with Travis Scott in it. Yes, I'm talking about the one with an entrance so long it'd make Mean Mark shed a tear or two. No, this isn't a bit. No, I'm not joking. Yes, I think this match is truly, legitimately great. As is the theme with most of Cena's 2025, the actual work is forgotten in the wake of the nonsense that ended it. This match carries such an immense atmosphere, and John's performance individually cannot be understated. The little details like slowing down his comeback to not give fans the satisfaction, or how he has to hit multiple AAs because he doesn't have that same power anymore. It's a performance that isn't overt or explicit. It's one that lies and succeeds in the intricacies. Yes, Travis Scott's inclusion and run-in are horrible, there's no denying it. But a low blow and a belt shot is a tremendous heel finish, and I'm not sorry for saying so. A big match that feels big, yet it truly shines in the minute. Number 20 versus CM Punk at Night of Champions 2025. Alright, I'll give you guys a quick story. Everyone knows this is my favorite pairing of all time. This match happening in 2025 meant a lot to me, even under the less than ideal circumstances. I actually had work during this match. I got out of work at 11 p.m. on this day, and yet I wasn't going to miss this match for the world, so I had the grand idea of telling my manager at the time that I really had to go to the bathroom, where I ran to as fast as I could, swiftly locked myself in, sat down on the bathroom floor, and watched this match while on the clock, while on my shift. Which, by the way, if my manager sees this video, this is a complete joke and this didn't happen. You wouldn't be able to see me if you did. Oh yeah, this match rocks a ton, by the way. As aforementioned for other 2025 Cena outings, the ending stretch sucks, and if I never have to see a company attempt to recreate the magic of Mania 40 again, it'll be too soon. Yet, for the 20 minutes where it was just John Cena and CM Punk wrestling, it was glorious. A match filled with callbacks and nods while also being so fresh. Two men in the twilight of their careers who just don't stop fighting. It's the natural evolution of their dynamic, where all of their tricks take just that little bit longer to execute. It's a wonderful old man match, and its meaning to me can never go unnoticed. Number 19 versus Randy Orton at Bragging Rights 2009. Having a good hour-long match is hard enough. Having a good hour-long match in 2009 WWE, of all places, sounds impossible. Yet John Cena and Randy Orton actually managed to pull it off. A match that takes full advantage of the runtime in the absolute best ways possible. A superb use of their environment, creating a real sense of chaos and danger. A sublime sense of progression, making each minute feel distinct from the last. Cena's performance in particular is brilliant as a tale of two halves. The way he shifts from the helpless dying hero to the man with a fire in his eyes exercising a demon while still maintaining that sense of urgency against the clock is something special. It's anarchic, timed, and magnificent. Number 18 versus CM Punk at SummerSlam 2011. Not even Triple H can stick his big nose in this one and ruin it. It's a more polished match than their previous in the sense that these two know each other just that tad bit better. Counter sequences that maintain that level of struggle and sloppiness that define this dynamic. A big fight feel that adds weight and leaves just enough for their future. These two just get this whole wrestling thing. Number 17 versus Randy Orton at SummerSlam 2007. A laud to the world title classics of the past. A match that is so well thought out and so well wrestled. Not a single misbeat, and each moment only adds to its gravity. A world title match that feels like a world title match. The stellar limb work, the protection of the big moves, and Cena's ridiculously excellent selling of his neck and equilibrium. This one is just beautiful to watch. Number 16 versus Batista at Extreme Rules 2010. This isn't the best last man standing match ever. That belongs to one that we're going to get to a little bit later, but it is damn high up there in the standings. There's a freedom that comes with a stipulation like this, and that freedom is utilized expertly here. These two destroy everything in their path, including each other. It's an explosive match in how loud and chaotic it is. However, it's also a really quiet match in all the in-between moments. The count is made to feel more significant, each passing number feeling more like a death blow. There's a tenderness in how John gets up slower and staggeringly so each time. However, his refusal to die, his refusal to give in, it's him at his best. A match that strikes the balance between the boldness of the stipulation and the humanity needed to make it feel important. Number 15 versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 23. This is Big Match John at it again. It's long, drawn out, and a proper main event epic. John wrestling this match like a man on a mission is truly spectacular to watch. Out to prove Michaels wrong and swim in waters he was never meant to reach. It has all the dramatics and theatrics of a main event, all executed extremely well. Number 14 versus Edge at Unforgiven 2006. This is easily the best John Cena Edge match ever. Dangerous, stiff, emotionally charged. It's not their last encounter, but it definitely feels like the culmination of their hatred. Leaving it all out there as a way to say no matter where we may go, this is the most we'll ever be able to give. John being thrown into an uncomfortable situation and saying screw it and existing in the freedom of the carnage is a superb story beat. Frantic and chaotic, perfect for the stipulation, and perfect for the feud. Number 13 versus Randy Orton at Breaking Point 2009. One of the most striking and uncomfortable matches you'll ever see. Seeing a man take such pleasure in inflicting such vile pain on another man is a completely uncharacteristic sight in the most sanitized era of WWE. Orton at his most psychopathic, and you have to witness John's comeback for yourself. The passion, the anger, and the way he channels the pain into resilience. The hero who walks through hell to reach his salvation. It's the most this dynamic has ever clicked, and in my opinion, the best match these two men have ever had. Number 12, the 2014 Elimination Chamber match. I mean, just listen to this group. John Cena, Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, Christian, Randy Orton, Sheamus. I mean, come on, seriously? This is easily the best Elimination Chamber match of all time. The best collection of talent, the best match layout, the structure use is incredible, the action is immaculate, the narrative of Randy being trapped in a prison of his own doing is simply wonderful. There's a moment towards the end of this where Cena and Bryan square off, their final time ever televised, and it's as magical as you'd expect, and everything surrounding it is magical. This is a match where everything hits and everything clicks, and like I said, it is the absolute best Elimination Chamber match that has ever happened. Number 11 versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2014. Harsh, shocking, mesmerizing, in your face, the most unexpected match in recent WWE history. One of the greatest examples of putting someone over you'll ever find. John takes the beating of a lifetime, and he doesn't get back up. Going against the grain and creating something truly unforgettable. You have to see the way Cena lands on his head on some of these suplexes. I mean, it is nasty. The way he bumps so suddenly and emphatically, almost going limp, is truly terrifying. The hero's fire extinguished. This is incredible, sticks with you, and might just be the greatest squash in company history. Now, earlier, I promised you that you guys would get to see some friends, and well, this is the Late Night Grin after all, and I wouldn't want to do this last part without them. So if you've stuck around this long, I thank you immensely, and don't worry, we don't false advertise around here. Cavalry is truly on the way as we count down the 10 greatest World Championship matches of John Cena's career, and I got some friends to help me out. Number 10 versus Rob Van Dam at One Night Stand 2006. The only reason I say this isn't the greatest crowd for a Cena match ever is because there's another crowd in a later match that beats this one out. You know the one I'm talking about. This is a magnetic thing. The visceral hatred for John on this night is something to truly marvel at. The way this enables him to play heel is magnificent. He's such an asshole, and he's so jovial in being so. The most comfortable he's looked up to this point. Egging the fans on, exercising his power in such a dominant fashion, he's truly spectacular here. Couple that with Rob's energy and the love these fans have for him, and it's an all-time atmosphere and a damn excellent contest.
All right, fellas, creeping into the top 10. A memorable match. In terms of atmosphere, one of the most memorable in wrestling history, even. Cena at Hammerstein Ballroom. Alex, I know this is one you're bullish on. Special match, for sure.
Absolutely. I have this in my top 20 WF title matches of all time, and from just a optics perspective, one of the most unique, high-profile matches that the World Wrestling Federation has ever put on. And for that alone, the atmosphere and, Cena's performance in that match at that point in time in his career it's pretty fucking heroic, to be honest.
It is indeed. It also, I mean, there'd already been jeering of John Cena, but that took it to a whole new level, and fans across the world saw that and said, we want some of that action, and it shaped the atmosphere for his matches for the next decade, right?
You had Vladimir giving him the business, and that's all people need to see, man.
Tons of novelty, but a great match to boot, and obviously a signature moment for Rob Van Dam. A fitting start to our top 10, I think.
Number 9 versus Rey Mysterio on the July 25th, 2011 edition of Monday Night Raw. Yes, I'm talking about the one where Rey sadly loses his title after an hour. However, this match is simply phenomenal. A pure and honest babyface match that stays true to the essence of both men. You get to see their greatest hits with the beautiful touch of how equal Rey feels throughout despite the height and strength discrepancies. The work on Cena's leg and the subsequent selling of it in moments where it seems John had turned the tide is truly amazing. A match that plays to both men's strengths of being straight up competitors who want nothing more than for the best man to win, whether it's them or not. Not only is this one of the best TV matches in company history, I would go as far as to call it one of the best TV matches in wrestling history.
This one's going to be a little more controversial, Buster. I'm not sure this will be in everyone's top 10, and I have a feeling your reaction to this matchup isn't one of great glory and triumph. Rey Mysterio losing the belt the same night he won it? What are we thinking?
Yeah, this was, as a child, I wasn't even particularly a huge Mysterio guy, but it was nice to see, the ultimate underdog get it done, and then immediately just stripped away from him. But then at the end of that, I was also very happy because CM Punk came back. But in those few minutes, I was fuming.
Yeah, you're not a big Rey guy, but you believe in justice, and this felt wrong. This felt wrong. It felt unholy.
Yeah.
It's an interesting inclusion. The last time I saw the match, it was terrific. I'd be intrigued to see if we, polled a bunch of Cena fans if this would make the top 10 or if this is an Adonis. He's standing his ground on this one.
This feels like an Adonis specialty, but
it does.
I could be wrong.
Always have to see Rey Jr. in the top 10. Tremendous.
Number 8 versus Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins at Royal Rumble 2015. Quite easily a top 2 triple threat match in company history, and if you're asking me for my opinion, it's the greatest in company history. Dynamic, high energy, fast-paced, a match that never gives you a chance to catch your breath. The looming threat Lesnar presents throughout is a constant positive, and the anxiety that this enables Cena and Rollins to wrestle with is truly fantastic. The rushed big move sequences feel natural, and there's an electricity to this that you just can't manufacture. This is a shot in the arm type of match, and it's absolutely godly.
One of the more acclaimed triple threat matches, I think it's fair to say, in WWE history. A thriller from 2015 Royal Rumble. Alex, this was one that at the time got genuine, match of the year buzz at a time where there was some options outside of WWE, right? This was the WWE match that really pierced through and became part of the conversation. Rollins, Lesnar, Cena. Memories of this one?
Specifically, it was so good that one of the most reviled main events in the history of WWE, WWF, the 2015 Royal Rumble match, and one of the most controversial shows from a just backlash perspective. It was almost like the friend at the bar that was everyone's pissed off, but everyone's like, well, hold on, don't mess with this guy. This triple threat match, okay, this is fine, okay? A tremendous piece of business. We all have our fun with Seth Freakin, a career-making performance for him in that match, and obviously Brock is on one in that, but I think what gets lost in that is Cena's effort is, for that point in his career, we're not far away from the U.S. Open Challenge that he would do, and I think that match is kind of a staple or a tent pole of what his career was about to become in terms of, what more people I think would know is the work rate John Cena.
Number 7 versus CM Punk at Night of Champions 2012. This feels like their least talked about match, and it really shouldn't be. A big match epic with incredible drama and unreal atmosphere, and a match that thrives in detail. The story of Punk wanting Cena's respect but not having it in him to fight for it honestly is such an excellent continuation of the story. It's galvanizing watching these two trade bombs, even more so when they attribute this much weight and matter to them. It's a modern epic classic between the greatest pairing in the history of wrestling.
So when people think Punk Cena, obviously naturally they think of the Raw match, which is not a world title match, Buster. Not a world title match. They think of Money in the Bank, which I'm sure will come up. But for now, we're talking Night of Champions 2012, which I think is one of their more distinct matches. Punk enters. It's a road game for him, right? And he takes almost all of the match. This is the match where distinctly Punk has an answer to every single thing that Cena throws at him. And it ends with a big double pin, which I think is, probably part of why it's somewhat skewed historically. But I think it's one of their more daring efforts, maybe their most, in terms of actually having a clear idea and committing to it. And it is built around that clear theme for like the first 2/3, maybe more, of CM Punk being better than John Cena. And I think it speaks to the greatness of John Cena as a top babyface that they could tell stories like that with him, right? Like they did later on with AJ Styles. The story is he's not as good as this guy right now, and he needs to do something to change that. That was a go-to for Cena. He and Punk had a special dynamic, which I got a feeling will come up more here very shortly.
Number 6 versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam 2025. One of the coolest sentences I'll ever be able to utter is that I got to see John Cena's last SummerSlam match live and in person. An eternal memory for me and one of the greatest honors of my entire life. And yet, it's a match that still holds up really well, even watching it back at home. The old gunslinger giving all he has left in an attempt to restore his legacy and prove he has more fight left in him. The type of pompous, explosive, grand, big main event epic that WWE specializes in. And perhaps the last classic performance of Cena's career, and it's endearing to see just how hard he works to make this something special. The grand hits, a dip into the PWG John pool, and the way he breaks down slowly throughout is simply agonizing in the best and worst ways possible. Such a heartbreakingly beautiful old man performance, a special achievement, and a match that'll forever mean the absolute world to me.
Well, fun to see a modern one on here, one from just this year, the retirement tour. Buster, we watched this together. SummerSlam main event, redeeming what was Fiendgate.
Yeah.
The guys put in a serious shift here. It was an admirable F5. What did you make of this?
A genuine spectacle that it was nice to see Cena go out and have like that one last epic world title match. It felt correct.
It did. I definitely agree. It had an incredible atmosphere, and it was a match wrestled with a palpable motivation of that Mania thing wasn't quite what we were looking for, and this kind of scratched the itch for people. Cool to see Cena adding to Adonis top 10 here in his final months of pro.
Number 5 versus AJ Styles at Royal Rumble 2017. The aces of their respective universes colliding in a match they were destined to have. An epic fireworks show. Cena out to prove he could figure out AJ, while Styles is out to assert his place in shark-infested waters. The fact that they never even left the ring for a second is absurd, and for a match that follows the same structure as their previous outings, this couldn't be any different tonally. Big moves built on desperation, a match that focuses on the mental burden failure and anxiety carry. John has a unique ability to make even the most mundane things matter. From his expressions on near falls to the pace in which he climbs the top rope, there isn't a single movement from him that doesn't have some sort of meaning. A dream match that far exceeds even the highest of expectations from a pairing that I'm just so happy we got to see do the dance.
Certainly AJ Styles, Alex, one of the most famed John Cena rivals, and probably the last name to add to that list, right? The last guy that became like an iconic Cena rival. Their third match, Royal Rumble 2017, the one that famously they didn't leave the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Pure excitement in the stadium there before the Rumble. Terrific match, Alex. You were in attendance, I believe.
I was. The Alamo Dome in San Antonio, one of the 3 Royal Rumbles they hosted. Yeah, and as a resident old head of the Late Night Grin, when I was in high school, 2004 on the forums, 2005, there weren't many bigger, what if matches than John Cena versus AJ Styles. So to get to see that pan out the way it did, and then also to be in attendance for the WWF title match of the lineup that they had at this point. I think they've had 4 singles matches, on pay-per-view, and that was the only one for the strap. And it was a hell of a time. It's a truly epic match that the stadium setting, I think, really adds to.
I would agree. AJ at this point is still a guy I think you could fairly say was the best wrestler in the world, right? You could argue that here in January 2017, and it was fun to see Cena mix out with him in a similar vein to he did, prior independent international legends, however you want to phrase it. I know their favorite was international, I think, but AJ Styles certainly among those names. They had many a classic in that stretch in the mid-2010s.
Number 4 versus JBL at Judgment Day 2005. To me, the first legendary match of John Cena's career. A haunting match. The sight of the young kid bleeding profusely, shaking and stumbling around is simply terrifying. JBL is the perfect malicious villain. No remorse, no care. The visual of a defiant Cena screaming in the face of adversity and fighting on with reckless abandon is one for the ages. Even the usual dead air of the in-between moments of the stipulation are enhancements here, getting across the gravity and anguish of the situation at hand. The first showcase of John's unmatched resolve, a match that's brutal and ugly, and one that marks the arrival of the soon-to-be greatest of all time, John Cena.
Another one we watched together, Buster, and speaking of redeeming WrestleMania matches, WrestleMania 21 wasn't quite what JBL and John Cena imagined, I would presume, but they had some blood to work with the following month, and they tore it down at Judgment Day, Buster.
Yeah, this is one of Cena's signature performances in his career, and visually, but also just his performance is a true badass babyface in this match is genuinely incredible, and JBL meets him perfectly with being the shithead heel backing down and being a pussy, all that kind of stuff. This match is fantastic. It's probably top 3 for me in terms of Cena matches.
A match you're higher on than Adonis. Magical
Yes.
moments here on LNG Productions. I agree, it's very, very special. JBL, of course, in the midst of his era as the ultimate Judgment Day wrestler, turning in another classic at that very event. Terrific match, and maybe as heroic as John Cena ever felt, other than one match that I got a feeling is still ahead of us, so we'll maybe get to that here shortly.
Number 3 versus Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam 2013. This is the only extensive match between the two greatest wrestlers of all time, and so of course it's one of the greatest matches in the history of the sport. What else were you expecting? As genuine a match as you'll ever find. Two men driven by competition and pride, battling to see who the best truly is. No shenanigans, no outside factors, just the heart of the battle. One man out to prove he belongs, the other out to show he really is a professional wrestler. The back and forth is electrifying, and the individual babyface fires are just so lovely to witness. The true genius of this, however, is just how much Cena gives to Bryan, never allowing the latter to feel less than, even when the machine wanted him to be so. There's a moment where they stand and slap each other repeatedly that showcases one of John's strongest qualities, his ability to convey without ever having to say anything, the onus of realization, and the weight of reality. A match that does just as much to show the mental battle as much as it does the physical. This is a deep and nuanced main event epic, and a match that means an awful lot to me. For the only time these two men ever got to truly do the dance, man, is it something magical.
Alex, I know SummerSlam 2013 is a show that you're always happy to talk about, and one of the main reasons for that, our main event, of course, John Cena and Daniel Bryan. Incredibly physical babyface match. That's the first one that comes to mind. Memories of that one, and fair placement, I think, here in at 3.
I would absolutely agree with that. Probably my favorite wrestling show of all time, and the main event is no small part in that. If AJ and if AJ and Cena was like a pipe dream, then Cena and Bryan didn't even exist. So the idea that the second biggest show of the year is being main evented by this match, and God, it's a beautiful encounter, man. And physical is right. Bryan gives it, and Cena does too. There's a lariat towards the end of that match that, brother. And, for the joking we have about strike exchanges and whatnot, one of the greater, slap fights in wrestling history at the end of this. And one of, honestly, the most shocking moments of John Cena title matches ever, in that Cena literally cowers away from Bryan at the end of the match because he has no answer for the physicality that he brings. Everyone knows that Daniel Bryan is one of the greatest professional wrestlers that ever lived, bell to bell, technically, whatever phrase you want to use. Cena hangs in there with him and tells just an unbelievable story. And as a fan, or one of those people that, imperfections make things perfect, something I like to say, there's a couple moments in that match, specifically at the end, where things kind of fall off the rails, and the way they pull it back together is what makes it so memorable and so great. So a worthy inclusion at number 3, absolutely.
Number 2 versus Umaga at Royal Rumble 2007. The moment I realized heroes are real, Umaga at his most menacing and frightening, a soulless monster hell-bent on destroying a mere man. This is the most complete performance of John's entire career. The way he takes an ass-kicking with such animation, to his screams and winces and the way he clutches his ribs. The count has never meant more, each passing second shattering any sort of hope until the stubborn warrior somehow manages to continue to get up. The sight of a bloodied and beaten John Cena eating punches from Umaga and screaming in the monster's face until until he dishes out some of his own is one of wrestling's greatest visuals, only topped by the visual of a spent and hurt Cena choking a monster lifeless, because even monsters are mortal. If I were asked to encapsulate John Cena with just a match, this would be the one I choose. A man who doesn't know any other way than forward. A man who was always willing to shoulder the pain. A man who stared death in the face and told it that he couldn't be seen. He is truly Superman. The sloppiness of his offense, but his insistence on powering through. The slow yet spirited nature of his movements. This is savage, spellbinding, and legendary. The greatest last man standing match of all time. And JR was right. Even a monster's gotta breathe.
I mentioned earlier that there may be one performance more heroic than the JBL one, and it's in here at 2. Umaga and Cena. A match that has extended Umaga's legacy immensely. The just sheer memory of this match. And he was a great pro wrestler, don't get me wrong, but this is the match people point to, right? This is the one that we cite when talking about how great he was. Bloody, gritty, scrappy, Buster. This is something special.
It very much is. I would still probably take the JBL performance, specifically of John Cena, over this one, but this one is still fantastic. Incredible blade job. The finish is like the signature moment of the match. You know, the rope wrapped around Umaga's neck. Jim Ross on commentary. Even monsters have to breathe.
And even the monsters gotta breathe.
It's fucking awesome, dude.
It is. It feels like lives are in danger by the end of this. And that is always an achievement in pro wrestling, especially when you're not, isn't light tubes in there, right? So they create a really special tone with this, Alex. This is a very memorable match.
Yet another San Antonio Royal Rumble that I was in attendance for at the then AT&T Center. I don't know what it's called now, but yes, it's at this point in Cena's career, we mentioned the Rob Van Dam, the turning of the tides as far as fan reaction goes, and it was one of these matches that I don't really know that people going into it knew that was going to happen. They didn't know Cena had it in him. They didn't know Umaga had it in him, and it's an all-time classic WWE pay-per-view title match, whatever like qualifier you want to put on it. The end of the match is Umaga takes the turnbuckle off so he can use the post of it or the screw on the side to murder John Cena, and so John Cena has to turn the tides and then strangle him until he's unable to stand on his feet. It's great. And also as a fan of how long they kept those old CRT monitors at the commentary desk, those are used prominently in here. So an unbelievable effort and like one of the more heroic Cena efforts. And I think a very this is a match if you tried to pitch to people like how a good guy can bleed in wrestling and it makes them seem like a real true hero. This would be a great example of that.
You mentioned the monitors. One cool thing about this match, everything used from a gimmick point of view, from a weapon point of view, is something that belongs at ringside. And it is, I don't know whose idea that was, but it is almost entirely at odds with the era where, yes, there was a lot of blood and a lot of gore, but there was a lot of set pieces, right? Even the JBL match was like, there's the TV monitor spot. This is like everything at ringside, it belongs at ringside, and it's being used for violence. And I always loved that as a touch. It adds to the kind of grittiness, as does, of course, Jim Ross. A fitting 2 seed here for the top 10.
And number 1 versus CM Punk at Money in the Bank 2011. This isn't just the best world title match of Cena's career. This isn't just the best match in WWE history. This is the greatest match in the history of professional wrestling as a medium. I've talked ad nauseum about this match, and yet I'll never get tired of doing so, nor will I ever be able to do it proper justice. This is everything the sport should and can be. The greatest atmosphere ever. Everything in this match just comes together in ways you can never anticipate. Road game Cena and the situational awareness that very few possess on John's level. Understanding he's in enemy territory and thus allowing that hatred to fuel him into realizing his own strength. A match that plays to both men's advantages, whether it's Cena's force or Punk's tenacity. The sloppiness of the work conveying the immensity of the moment. The way each big move feels like a massive momentum shift. How human this match feels. At its core, this is 2 men fighting for their causes and choosing to do so to the beat of their own drum. 2 men who are feeling the magnitude of it all. A match that has such heart and earnestness. Professional wrestling has never been better than it was on July 17, 2011. The night John Cena and CM Punk had the greatest match of all time.
Well, Adonis has had some surprisey fruits and surprises our way along the way, but this one I think is not one of them, right? An expected but very fair and very fitting number 1 world title match for John Cena. Money in the Bank 2011. He and CM Punk's classic in Chicago, which I believe was WWE's first Meltzer 5 in like 14 years, I want to say, 15 years, which always just, the idea of that now is like, whoa. But yeah, an incredible match, and obviously the atmosphere. But beyond that, these two guys were made for one another, Alex. This was, there's a reason those two names, you think of Money in the Bank, you think that image, that visual, Chicago, it's a magical moment.
I mean, what more can the three of us say about that match that hasn't already been said? It's a career night. It's the pinnacle of CM Punk's career, and John Cena, he wrestles on that night as good as any top level professional wrestler has ever performed. Like, he is there to bring it from the crowd reaction perspective, and I watched that match recently, and every time I watch it, I'm kind of like blown away again, because in a situation like that, they could have just kind of, brothered their way through the match. But instead, what they choose to do is have one of the defining matches in the history of the promotion. An unforgettable moment that's created by CM Punk winning that match, but it wouldn't have meant nearly as much if John Cena wasn't who he was and brought the performance that he did in that match.
Couldn't agree more. Buster, this feels like kind of a spiritual sequel to that aforementioned Van Damme match, right? Away territory, enemy territory even for Cena. But man, in terms of action, this one goes through takes some serious highs. This is something special. Yeah,
a genuine clinic. And as a very, very big Punk fan at this time, and now still, but especially at this time.
Flag still up.
Especially at this time, this match was like probably up to this point the most hype I'd ever been about a wrestling match, and they delivered completely. As you said, like the specialness of a like John Cena away game is one of the more incredible things that pro wrestling's ever produced, and that's something that I think can only happen with John Cena. It's like so specific to him, but yeah, I mean, like Alex said, the match is a genuine Stone Cold classic.
And for the character John Cena, I think it's maybe the greatest night also, because the entrance, he's stoic, right? Because he's a man there to do a job, because he has to do it for the company, no matter what he thinks of some of the people involved in running the company, he has to do it. And then I think the finish is one of the greatest finishes in the history of the promotion, in that he does the right thing in spite of himself, right? Mm-hmm. He steps on a grenade doing what John Cena should do as a character. And in fear of being overly romantic about wrestling characters, it is like a comic book hero moment for John Cena. He will not let them rob CM Punk, even if it costs him and the company the WWE title. It's not the most heroic thing imaginable, and it's incredible. So, 2011 WWE is not a time that I think people look back on and go, man, the creative was really tight then. But on that one night, did they not get everything just completely spot on? I mean, it's incredible to reflect on. A fitting list topper here for Cena's world title matches. Tremendous work, Adonis.
The first wrestling match I ever saw had John Cena in it. The first WrestleMania I ever bought on pay-per-view was headlined by John Cena. The first piece of wrestling merch I ever owned was a John Cena t-shirt. The first wrestling show I ever attended was headlined by John Cena at Madison Square Garden. The first major WWE show I've ever attended was the last SummerSlam of John Cena's career. I say all this to say there is nobody more formative for me than John Cena. He's attached to every core moment and landmark of my wrestling fandom in some way, shape, or form. My experience and love for the sport wouldn't be the same without him. 106 matches is a lot, and this is a tall order that I'm not sure I did justice to, and yet I'd do it all over again and forever if I could. To pay a small token to the man who's meant more to me than I'll ever be able to express is one of the coolest things I've ever gotten to partake in. The career of John Cena can't be summed up in one video, and I'm certainly not here to try and do so. What I will say in closing, however, is that the sport will forever be better off for having had him in it, and wrestling will miss him immensely. And so will I. Thank you to Joe, Buster, and everyone at Late Night Grin for providing me the space to say thank you to my hero and to do something really damn cool and special. This wouldn't have been possible without their support and openness, a gesture that'll never be lost on me. If you've stuck around for this whole ramble or have had any small part in me landing an opportunity this amazing, thank you. It means more to me than you'll ever know. Thank you, John Cena. From the 8-year-old kid who dressed up as you on Halloween and had a cardboard cutout of you in his room he'd salute to every night before bed, and from the 20-year-old guy who got to shake your hand and tell you this personally, thank you, John Cena. Thank you for everything you've done for professional wrestling. Thank you for everything you've done for millions of people worldwide. And most importantly, thank you for everything you've done and everything you've meant to me in my life. I'll never be able to express it properly, and my words truly don't do it justice. Thank you to the greatest of all time. Thank you to John Cena.
Thanks for watching, folks. Please like the video and subscribe for more grins. To join us live almost daily, head to Late Night Grin, hitting the join button for exclusive watch-alongs, wrestling history lessons, and live Q&As. Keep grinning, folks. All hail.
John Cena sucks. John Cena sucks. John Cena sucks. One more time. John Cena sucks.